I have a lot of concerns about the state of criminal justice in our country right now, and I know you share those concerns. You've had public and private conversations with me, but there are a number of issues around the rule of law that really concern me. You know, Mr. Barr was an architect of mass incarceration. As I held up, he literally wrote the book. He designed a lot of what we saw. That during my time as a law student in the 1990s, till the time I was mayor of Newark, we were building a new prison or jail in this country every 10 days. And the people that we were shuffling into our prisons, as the chair and ranking member know, were the most vulnerable people in our society. We were putting the mentally ill. We were putting the survivors of sexual trauma. We were putting the addicted with the disease of addiction. Those are the people we were shuttling into our prisons at unconscionable rates. The #1 healthcare provider, mental health care provider or institution in our country is our prisons and jails. And people who are there often have their problems compounded and then put down to the street, where they're more of a danger to themselves or potentially a danger to recidivate than they were when they went in. I have one response to Mr. Barr's QFRs that just is stunning to me. I spent most of my 10 minutes in the opening round talking to him about implicit racial bias. Now, again, I've had Republican colleagues admit that we live in a country where the data is the data. It just shows that African-American convicted for the same crime as somebody white, they're going to get a significantly longer sentence. You can see this from police stops all the way through the system. And when I asked him about this implicit racial bias, doesn't mean that people are raving racists. It means that, as the former head of the FBI admitted, if I was walking down a street and saw a group of white kids on one side and a group of black kids, it's something that is implicit in me that I'm suddenly suspecting. We need to be aware of that. We need to train people that. Literally, the job he is taking over has said that mandated implicit racial bias training for everybody there. And understanding this, that he's taking that position, and he's obviously responsible. This is his response to that I received yesterday when I asked him about implicit racial bias. I have not studied the issue of implicit racial bias in our criminal justice system. Therefore, I have not become sufficiently familiar with the issue to say whether such bias exists. DOJ policy is to give people implicit racial bias training. We have massive disparities in incarceration in this country. There's no difference between blacks and whites for using drugs or dealing drugs, but blacks are almost 4 times likely to be incarcerated for it. And we have a guy about to take that office and says he is ignorant of implicit racial bias. He can't even say that it exists. I've got Republican Trump-appointed judges coming before here saying, yeah, it exists. I'm conscious of it. These are some things I'm going to do about it. Ignorance allied with power is one of the most dangerous forces in a free society. And so the fact that this is somebody that can't even admit that there's a problem and says he's ignorant of it and wants to be the highest law enforcement in the land makes me believe that he will be part of a continuing problem in our country, that we're failing to live up to the highest ideal of whether or not we are going to be a country who we say we are, where liberty and justice exists for all, where we have equal justice under the law. And that is a cancer on the soul of our society, affecting communities around this country, from Native American communities to communities, the black and brown community that I live in at home. And it's to me glaring. And the fact that we don't have more people on both sides of the aisle bringing this issue up, one of the biggest problems we have in the American justice system right now is the lack of faith people have in that institution, a lack of belief that they'll be treated fairly, a lack of belief that the system works. And we have someone that gives a response like that. So, Mr. Chairman, I have a lot more here about the importance of the independence investigation being full transparency. These are points that have been made, but this point has not been made, and it is just frankly alarming to me about the consequences of putting someone in a position, the highest law enforcement position in the land, with that much power, who is admittedly ignorant to one of the most important issues that are still plaguing the very integrity of our criminal justice system. Thank you very much.